The Mediterranean chaparral is a massive biome, spanning from Portugal all the way to Syria and Lebanon. The scale of this biome allows for a large amount of biodiversity, as well as many different ecological benefits for people who choose to inhabit the regions. The chaparral has a wide variety of physical traits that make it unique, with areas that vary from rough, dry hills to low-lying desert-like scrubland. The chaparral biome is classified as having dry and hot summers as well as mild, wet winters. There are many dense and woody shrubs and drought-resistant plant species, which means that forest fires are more common than in other biomes. The large amount of biodiversity is under threat from human expansion, seeing that there are many of these areas where plant and animal life thrive that are under threat by an increased amount of development in the area.
Because of the chaparral's intense heat and low rainfall, the animals living within this ecosystem have found some pretty interesting ways to adapt in order to survive. In fact, most of the creatures in the chaparral are at least partly nocturnal in order to escape the blazing heat of the daytime. Because of the lack of food in the chaparral, animals such as the rabbit and goat have adapted to the rough terrain by becoming lighter, more agile climbers in order to scavenge across greater distances. The plants in the chaparral have adapted to the heat in a variety of ways. For one, they have developed waxy leaves in order to prevent the transpiration of water out of the plants. The waxy layer does so by covering the pores of the plant, just like sunscreen to a human. Because of the persistent wildfires during the dry season, some plants such as the eucalyptus have adapted to only release their seeds once a fire burns them. The animals within this biome also rely and use each other for survival. An example of commensalism is between cactus wrens and bushes. The wrens use the bushes for cover, and the bush is not affected in any way. An example of mutualism within the chaparral is between the blue oak and common sagebrush. Both trees provide oxygen and shelter for the creatures of the chaparral, making both parties in this situation receive equal outcomes.
This food web depicts a minor section of an ecological community in the Mediterranean chaparral. On the lowest level of primary producers, organisms such as olive trees, wild oats, and southern wood scrubs are very prevalent. Going up the trophic hierarchy, the biodiversity begins to diminish. On the primary consumer level, herbivores such as the European hare, Iberian wild goat, and fallow deer exist, while omnivores such as the crested porcupine also exist. Due to the adaptations of its quills, the crested porcupine has no distinct natural predators. On the second consumer level, omnivores that side toward carnivores, such as the red fox, puma, and Iberian lynx exist. Organisms on this level only get energy from the producer trophic level if primary consumers are not available. On this food web, all organisms play a crucial role, but some organisms have a more significant impact compared to others, known as a keystone species. An example of these keystone species include the European hare and the puma. The European hare is important to the ecological community of a Mediterranean chaparral because it is a primary source of energy for several animals above it. Some of the apex predators that rely on the European hare for sustainability is the red fox, Iberian lynx, and puma. Without European hares, these apex predators would struggle to survive and would allow for other primary consumers to flourish. If this were to occur, both animals on different trophic levels would struggle for its sustainability. The puma also plays an important role in the Mediterranean chaparral because it is a primary predator for the Iberian wild goat and fallow deer. If the Iberian wild goat and fallow deer's populations aren't regulated, the biomass of primary producers would dramatically diminish, eventually leading to an ecological collapse.
The Mediterranean chaparral is a very beautiful and great destination for tourists to enjoy beauty they cannot find anywhere else around the world. Chaparrals are very important because of their many ecosystem services, including the many plants that help ease storm runoff, reduce erosion, and keep streams clean. The beauty is also an amazing addition to this essential biome. The mountains provide a beautiful sight for tourists, and of course the locals never get tired of the view. The mountains are covered with beautiful shades of green, and there are many plants that flower throughout the winter and spring. Unfortunately, there are some endangered species to be careful and protectful of, like the Iberian lynx. The Iberian lynx is a wild cat native to the Iberian Peninsula. This wild cat is endangered because their main food source, the European rabbit, is threatened. Another endangered species is a species of lizard called the Spanish algeroids, or Spanish keeled lizard. These lizards are endangered because there is a decrease in their forest habitat.
The Mediterranean has become highly traveled and populated, which results in many different environmental threats to the sea and coastlines. The Mediterranean Sea is highly trafficked, with as many as 60 oil rigs in the sea, as well as having roughly 30% of the world's ocean traffic because of the Suez Canal. This means that the level of pollution due to maritime travel and oil production is steadily increasing as demand for these rises. High levels of tourists entering the area means that there is almost a constant development of land and elevated pollution levels from the increasing population. It was estimated that nearly 650 million tons of sewage, 60,000 tons of mercury, 129,000 tons of mineral oil, 36,000 tons of phosphates, and 3,800 tons of lead are dumped into the Mediterranean each year, with nearly 70% of this waste being untreated. Because oil is transported in massive amounts across the sea, there are nearly 1 million tons of crude oil that are spilled accidentally into the sea each year. The once famous cedar forests of Lebanon have been completely eradicated by the systematic and historical deforestation, the after effects of climate change, and the recent Lebanon civil war. These cedars have been prized since biblical times for their invaluable wood and resin, which were once used for anything from the Phoenician trading ships to building the railroads of the Ottoman Empire.